everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to introduce you to this spreadsheet that I'm doing on my other channel, Watch for the Signs, where, I'm just at the very beginning of creating this spreadsheet. Down here at the bottom, you'll see where I have earthquakes by year, floods, hurricanes, wildfires, and I'm going to be adding more, okay? I'm probably going to do things like fish kills, because there's like all these stories whenever there's like fish that are killed. I want to keep track of that. There's probably just a whole bunch of other tabs that I'm going to add. But right now, all I have is earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, and wildfires. And I have this other channel for this specifically because there's so much to talk about. It deserves its own channel, and so that's why I'm doing this. It's called Watch for the Signs. Here it is right here. You can find it by going to the description in the description box below, and I have the link for it there. And also, if you go to my Christian Homestead homepage and you scroll down, it's the first one, okay, under featured channels. Or you can click on channels right here. I always have people that don't seem to be able to find where my stuff is at. So there's a few different places. The description box of the video. So you look down, if you're on your phone, you go down and click on description box. Or on the main page for my channel, there's these tabs up here. So you can just click on these, and here's channels. Or on the home screen itself, just scroll down, and here it is right here. And by the way, I just did an interview with Mindi yesterday from Temples of Jesus channel. We had a really good conversation. Make sure to check her out, okay? And then you can also subscribe to her in the description box of that video, or she's just right here, okay? Temples of Jesus, so make sure to check her out. But on this channel, it's going to be basically, it's not going to be themed or like specific to the church. This is for just a general audience. And all I'm doing is something kind of like the Two Preachers or Jason A., where I'm watching all these natural disasters, geopolitical news, economic news, things like that. Okay. And for this channel, I'm using this spreadsheet. So I want to show you a few things on this spreadsheet that I feel relate to the church. Okay, so LDS kind of specific things that I wouldn't talk about on the other channel. The first of which is this. So just a few days ago, 5 days ago, on September 10th, we had a magnitude 7.6 earthquake in Papua New Guinea. Now, why would that be church related? Well, I'll tell you. Because it was that week. Okay, let's pull up my Hebrew calendar. Okay, so we're looking at the week of September 4th to the 10th. Okay, you may recall that during that week, and that was just last week, on the 5th, we had a huge explosion on the sun, or a CME, and it was not Earth facing. It was the opposite direction, but it was really, really large, most likely an X-class flare, which is like the biggest class. And they talked about how this explosion is going to be studied for years. That's how big it was. Okay, so this happened on the 5th, and then 3 days later, 1, 2, 3, on the 8th, that's when Queen Elizabeth passed away. The next day after that was President Nelson's birthday. Oh, and by the way, the day that we had that big eruption on the sun, that was the birthday of Dan, as in the patriarch of the tribe of Dan. And I looked into the potential significance of that. So, big explosion on the sun. 3 days later, Queen Elizabeth passes away. A day later, President Nelson turns 98, becoming the oldest apostle or prophet of this dispensation. Technically, if you go by days, it happened before the 9th. Like, it happened back in April as far as like the oldest prophet, and then in August for the oldest apostle. But if you're just rounding up to years, this is the day that he became the oldest. The day after the longest ruling monarch of Britain passes away, which I find very strange and probably not coincidental. But I have a whole video talking about that. Okay, now the next day on the 10th, that's where we have the largest earthquake that's happened so far this year. So far, and the year's not over, but so far, this is the largest earthquake at a 7.6. And the reason why I have it highlighted in red like this is because this is the largest earthquake that Papua New Guinea has ever experienced. So it was a record-breaking earthquake for Papua New Guinea. And then you have to go back to August 12th, 2021, to get back to the next excuse me, to get back to an earthquake that was larger than this one. August 12th, 2021, in the South Georgia and South Sandwich Islands, there was an 8.1 earthquake. Okay, so I think I found that interesting. Okay, now what I also have is another tab for earthquakes by year. And what I mean by that is this is just taking the sum of all earthquakes for that year. Now, I got these numbers from Wikipedia. Wikipedia has many, many pages for earthquakes, and it has all these lists and stuff like that. And so the most complete list that I was able to find was for earthquakes that are 6.0 or larger. Okay. Some of the list include 5.0, some of them include 4.0, okay? But this column right here on the left, this is the total number of earthquakes that were 6.0 or above. This column right here, column G, is the total number of earthquakes that are 5.0 or above, okay? So there's something interesting going on here, because you'll see that I have the conditional formatting, which colors the cells according to numbers. So the darker means more earthquakes, lighter means less earthquakes. So you go back in time. so far, all that I really have is back to 1985, because Wikipedia doesn't have any more lists going back beyond that. Like, they do have lists, but they don't have it nice and already totaled. So I'm gonna have to do like some manual work if I want to go beyond 1985. There's some in here that I've already manually put in, because there's like these 9.0s. There was a 9.0 or higher in 1964, 60, and 1952. And then you go back in time. I was able to fill this in for like historical earthquakes, which was pretty easy to do, because you just have to see the page that I got it from. It was relatively, it took time, but it was kind of easy to do. So looking at recent history, looking at the current century, from 2007 to 2011, so 7 and 11, which is kind of interesting by itself, there was kind of like a high frequency, well, the highest frequency of earthquakes during that time. I don't know yet that there's anything special about that in terms of the church. If you think of something, feel free to put it in the comments below. But what I am interested in is 2021, because you'll see that since 2011, the highest year since that time was 2021. That's a year where there were 160 total earthquakes that were 6.0 or above, and there were 3 8.0 or above earthquakes, between 8.0 and 8.9. You have to go back to 2007 to find that many, which in 2007 there were 5, that's kind of incredible. But last year really kind of stood out. And then when you look over here, if you include the 5.0 and above earthquakes, it's actually the third largest year, or the third largest year this century for earthquakes that are 5.0 or above. So 2021 was kind of a special year for earthquakes, and all I can say with that is we know that 2020 in the church was a special year. That was the year that the missionaries were called back, 2 days after Angel Moroni dropped his trumpet because of an earthquake. That's why he dropped his trumpet. There was a 5.8, I think, in West Valley, I think he was in Magna, which is west of Salt Lake. So you had that happen. You had the pandemic. You had the new church symbol that was introduced. We did the Hosanna shout. And the new proclamation was introduced. So many things. So you have all that stuff that happens in 2020, and then the next year, there's all these earthquakes that take place. Now, when we think about the baseball analogy that both President Nelson and Elder Bednar have used, how we're in the bottom of the ninth inning, it makes me wonder if, like, the last couple years, 2020 and 2021, were basically the other side's uh, turn to bat. That's when they interrupted our missionary work and did all sorts of other things. You know, when we're thinking about power and secret combinations and stuff like that. 2020 and 2021 was kind of like their year if they were up to bat. But now, 2022, in April, we have this big call out to missionaries, which it seems like now it's our turn to bat. Maybe for the next couple years. I don't know. It seems like it's leading up to either 2024, which was the original date that the Salt Lake Temple was supposed to be finished with its renovations. It's been pushed back to 2025 and possibly 2026. I still need to see if I can get clarification on that. But it seems like starting this year and including the next few years, it's our turn to bat. Okay. And so it's interesting that during the enemy's time to bat, you have in 2021 all these earthquakes. So, I don't know if that's a correct interpretation, but it's something to at least kind of think about at the very least. Okay, moving on to floods. This is my least filled out spreadsheet so far. All I put was this Pakistan flood. Well, flooding. It's not just like a single flood. The flooding that's been happening in Pakistan. Last I checked, the death toll is at 1,325, and I think this is actually an ongoing event. I've done a video about it on Watch for the Signs right here. 1/3 of Pakistan is flooded. 1/3 of Pakistan, and I think maybe I mentioned it on Christian Homestead. I can't remember. I feel like maybe I have talked about it. I don't know. But on Watch for the Signs, I talk about it. And don't you think it's kind of peculiar that 1/3 of a country is flooded? It doesn't matter what that country is. It wouldn't even matter if it was like a small country. Well, maybe it would kind of matter. But Pakistan is like kind of an average sized country when you compare it to like Europe or other places. And 1/3 of it is underwater right now. So that's happening this year. Anyway, I can't think of any significance of that when it comes to the church other than 1/3 or a third part. Well, no, sorry. A third part. 1/3. That's one of those numbers that come up all the time when you're reading the book of Revelation, right? A third part of the waters, a third part of the trees are burned, a third part of this, a third part of that. So there could be some symbolism in that potentially. Okay, now let's go to the hurricanes tab. This one, I have a lot of work to do to fill this out, but so far I have the year 2022 all filled out. Nothing here that I can really point to that seems significant. Other, as far as like the church goes, the strongest hurricane that we've had so far this year was in July, Hurricane Darby, and it affected Hawaii, or it was in that region. So nothing really to say here. Well, except for Hurricane K. Hurricane K is interesting because Hurricane K, this was a Pacific, so you have A and P in this column. P means Pacific. I have a note here for Hurricane K. Hurricane K is the closest a hurricane from the Pacific had got to making landfall in California for more than 50 years. I find that interesting because if the Lord is using these disasters, and I know that He is, as a warning, as a judgment, as a everything. Whoa, why is it not scrolling all the way over? What the heck happened? Oh, there we go. That was weird. Then it's almost like Hurricane K may have been kind of a shot across the bow for California. I don't know. Another interesting thing about this hurricane is that it caused a lot of, like, after it was downgraded to a tropical storm, it caused a lot of flooding and such in California. So much so that we had this kind of like biblical event take place where is it? Oh, it's my most recent one. Death Valley has waterfalls in it right now. Well, it may have ended, I don't know, but last I checked, Death Valley has waterfalls that you can see because of all the rain, and a lot of roads were ruined and stuff like that last month in August, they that area had a 1,000 year rain event. So 2 months in a row, Death Valley has had these like kind of biblical happenings, right? And it's interesting because Death Valley is known for being the hottest place on Earth, the driest, hottest place on Earth. So to have waterfalls in a place like that, that sounds biblical. It sounds kind of like the Dead Sea, when the Dead Sea is going to be um, healed, right? It's no longer going to be, I guess it's no longer going to be a terminal lake or a salting sea. Um, it's like this imagery of how, well, you can think of it this way also. You can think about how the Earth is moving from a telestial condition to a terrestrial condition, and in a terrestrial condition, the Earth is going to be in its paradisiacal state, and so therefore, deserts I don't think are going to be anymore. And I think I've actually read that from some general authority. That might be a video for another time. Now, this event with Death Valley, is it permanent? No, it was because of Hurricane K, or because of Tropical Storm K at that point. But it still puts that imagery in your mind. You know, this feels and looks like a biblical event in such a place. Okay, and again, I've felt that a lot of these things that are happening is simply the Earth preparing to become a paradisiacal world. You know, everything from climate change to these disasters and hurricanes and earthquakes. Uh, for all we know, the Earth is like positioning itself, even though like it seems somewhat normal when you look at the history. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into earthquakes more. But the next thing I want to talk about is, well, I'm going to save that one for last. I'm going to go to volcanoes right now. I don't have a tab for volcanoes, but there's this website right here called earthquakes.volcanodiscovery.com. It's a great place where you can check on volcanoes. I don't use it so much for earthquakes. I use other sites for that. Bob D, or Robert Dransfield, he said, "Hey Jared," let me zoom in. He said, "Hey Jared, today, September 14th, 2022, MonkeyWorks reports." Now, if you don't know who MonkeyWorks is, it's another YouTube channel. It's this guy right here. He does a pretty good channel. He mostly watches like aviation type things because he was in the Air Force, and he watches like the flight tracker and watches, you know, stuff like that. But he talks about other things too. So Bob is referring to this guy right here. His channel is called MonkeyWorks US. So it says MonkeyWorks reports 11 volcanoes active. I don't know what you can find out on this, but MonkeyWorks says the most he has ever seen was 14. So 11 is extremely high, Monkey said. I was just thinking of your new channel. About 6 minutes into his daily video, see photo, open up attached link. Kindest regards, Bob D. So I think what he is talking about, because when I look at this map, let's count it up. I didn't count it up before this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So on this map, it shows 24, but the map that he is looking at, I can tell you right now, you look up here, it says most tracked flights and stuff like that. I think that he's watching, or he's looking at like more of an aviation website, because when I was going to school for aircraft dispatch, this is one of the things that they talk about, that volcanic ash is a hazard to flight safety. Why is that? Well, it's because volcanic ash is not good for plane engines. it's it's like throwing a bunch of like sand, like literally sand, into the engines of a plane. So you can imagine that the outcome of that probably wouldn't be good. And so that's something that the airlines watch for, the military watches for. You don't want to ruin your planes. You have to stay away from that. So it's probably the case that these volcanoes are producing a flight hazard because they're throwing up enough ash into the sky. Whereas over here, for example, in Hawaii, Hawaii always has volcanic activity, but it's not, you have like lava fields and you have just like running lava, but it's not necessarily ejecting a lot of mass up into the sky to where it would affect aviation. So I think that's the difference. Now, I've heard before from various people that recently we've had like the most active volcanoes of all time. I'm going to have to look into that. I can't say for sure. So I'm sorry about that. Now let's go back to my last tab here, wildfires. Okay, so I did the same thing with my wildfires tab. Anything that's highlighted in red like this means that this fire, okay, because I have all the like individual fires listed out. This fire is the largest fire in the history of that area. So I have places like, for example, just within the last 4 years, just within the last 4 years. And what is that time frame? That's how long President Nelson has been president of the church. So 2018, he became president in January. So he was president like the entire year, virtually. Nevada, British Columbia, Washington, Colorado, California, New Mexico all had their largest single wildfires of all time within President Nelson's presidency. On top of that, British Columbia and Russia, for like the entire fire season or the entire year, had their most wildfires ever that year. Russia and British Columbia. And Russia was just last year, and it was a lot. 44, excuse me, 44 million acres. So, and then you come down here and you see some more. These are within this century: Texas, Utah, Idaho, Arizona, Oregon. Okay, so within this century, you have all these records that are being broken. And I don't have everything on here. It's going to take me time to do the research. Wyoming was back in 1988, so that's the last time that they had their largest wildfire. It was called the Yellowstone Fires of 1988. And every site that I check says that was the largest fire. When it says fires, I'm assuming that it's referring to kind of like a complex situation. So like you see here for British Columbia where it says the Tweedsmuir complex fire. A complex fire is a fire that results from multiple fires merging. So I don't know if that's what was happening here with the Yellowstone fires, but anyway, this year, it doesn't, I mean, I don't know. 2021 was a horrific year for wildfires. All you have to do is look at, and I've done this a few times, top California wildfires. I wasn't expecting to come here during the video. Okay, so top 20 largest top 20 largest California wildfires. Let's just look at the year 2021. So on this list, you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 from 2021 alone on this list. Okay? 2021 was not a good year for wildfires in California. And then look at 2020. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 from the year 2020. So you know what that means? This is a list of 20. And I've said this before, but this is a list of 20. So between 2021 and 2020, you add up those fires, that's 9 fires. So virtually half of this list is just from the last couple years. Okay? 2 years accounts for almost half of this list. So surely that's a sign of some sort. Okay. You look at the acreage here. The top one was August 2020, the August complex fire with 1 million acres. And then the one at the bottom of the list was from 1977. Oh, and by the way, the only 2 fires from a previous century was these 2, September 1932 and 1977. All the rest have been in this century, the other 18. So the smallest one on this list was at 177,000 acres, just to give you some reference. So for my spreadsheet, I decided what I was going to do is use the same criteria that they do on Wikipedia, where if a fire reaches 100,000 acres, I will put it on here, 100,000 acres or more. And then if the death toll is 10 or more, then I'll put it on here. Wait, was I going to do that for wildfires? I can't remember. No, that was earthquakes. No, okay, all I know for sure is that if it's 100,000 acres or more, I will put it on here. Or if it was the largest wildfire in that area, then I'll put it on here. And there might be some other criteria that I come up with later on. Okay, so right now, we have 2 wildfires this year that are 100,000 or more. The Moose Fire in Idaho and the Double Creek incident in Oregon. If we go to Zoom Earth, this is updated. Let's just see, because there's one wildfire that is getting really close to making my list. Okay, so here's the Mosquito Fire. There's been a lot of grief with this one. It's currently at 64,000 acres, so it's not on the list yet. Okay, here's the this is the one, Cedar Creek Fire. It's at 92,000, and it's 0% contained. I didn't know if that was like just a mess up on this website, but I went and actually looked it up last night, and no, it really is not contained, and it's already almost 100,000 acres. So I have the feeling that it's probably going to reach 100,000 acres and therefore end up on my list. Up here, here's the Double Creek Fire, 157 acres, or 157,000 acres, and it's only 22% contained. And then the Moose Fire is over here, close to Montana, but in Idaho at 130,000 acres. So the reason why I have these highlighted in green is because they're active. It's just to help remind me to go back and keep updating these numbers until it's finished. So, So, and then there's like a whole bunch of like other fires going on in the West. So pretty much only in California. Okay, so according to Zoom Earth, California, Wyoming, there's one in Wyoming, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Washington, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Northwest Territories. Are there any in Alaska? I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea. Now, the fire season is not really over from the definitions that I've looked at until November 30th. So we still got a couple more months to go, and we'll just see what's happening. But these fires are producing massive amounts of smoke in the air. So it's just crazy. And then what's fueling all this? Why are we having so many wildfires that are just going crazy over the last couple of years? Some of it has to do with the drought. Okay, you look at the U.S. Drought Monitor. California not looking good. Utah not looking good. It has not been looking good in Utah for a long time. It's just terrible. Unfortunately for me right now, Kansas not looking good. Nebraska not looking good. And Missouri, it's still pretty much in the clear, but usually Missouri is like, there's no coloration in Missouri. But right now there is. Oklahoma not looking good. Texas, uh, New Mexico. This year, New Mexico had its largest wildfire in state history, which they said it was partly because of the drought. So this is what it looks like as of right now. All right. And you know what? I think that's it. Oh yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the volcano. I'm gonna try and figure out some way to do volcanoes on here. Volcanoes. Okay, well, we already kind of talked about volcanoes, but I failed to mention this volcano that happened at the beginning of this year, the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcano. This volcano is the largest, well, it says right here, the largest atmospheric explosion recorded by modern instrumentation. Heard as far away as Alaska. That is freaking far from Tonga. Okay, let's look at the map here. Tonga is like, it's like in this area right here, roughly. I think this actually is Tonga, but anyway, it's right here. Alaska is all the way in the heck up here. That is so yeah, it was very, very loud. So it was larger than the largest nuclear bomb or hydrogen bomb ever exploded, the Tsar Bomba by Russia. Larger than that. They're still studying it. So right now, what they have it at is at a 5 for VEI, which is the Volcanic Explosion Index. But this does not seem to be a like its final number. The reason why I say that is because I found an article, "The Blast Heard Around the World." It says here, when Hunga Tonga okay, sorry. When Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai erupted on the 15th of January 2022, it affected the world, but we're still learning about the extent of its influence. Volcanologists rate eruptions on a 8-point explosivity index, VEI, in which each 1-point increase represents a 10-fold increase in power. The eruption of America's St. Helens in 1980 was VEI 5. The 1991 eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines was VEI 6. Ditto for the 1883 eruption of Krakatoa in Indonesia. So that was a 6. And everybody knows Krakatoa, hopefully. The biggest in recorded history, the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora, also in Indonesia, was VEI 7. So the difference between the one that happened this year and Mount Tambora is that this year it was recorded with modern instruments, and so that's why it has that record. But this one is larger. Okay, as for Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai, scientists are still struggling to be sure, but it looks to have been somewhere in the VEI 6 range, and probably the biggest since Tambora. You see that? It says part of the difficulty in determining its exact magnitude comes from its remoteness, but a bigger compilation is the fact it occurred underwater. Or a bigger complication. So yeah, imagine if it hadn't been underwater, because you wouldn't have had all that water to block some of it. So it really, really was massive, and I'm sure that they're going to come out with more data as time goes by. So going back to this right here, So on Wikipedia, they have it listed as a 5, although that article said it's most likely a 6. You go back to that 1991 eruption, the Mount Pinatubo, which was a 6, and it's saying that most likely it's the largest one since Tambora, which is all the way back here. This was in 1815, which was a 7. And then the only other 7 on this table was one back in 1452. So 7s are very rare, relatively speaking. But I think it's really saying something that this was most likely the largest since Mount Tambora. Okay, and then again, imagine if it had been above water. I don't know. Here's like a little graphic of it right here, a satellite imagery of it. It was biblical. It was biblical in proportions. So anyway, as soon as there's more information about this, if they upgrade it to 6 or whatever, I will let you know. And I guess again, I don't know how I'm going to track volcanoes, because like La Palma wasn't on there, but I feel like La Palma was significant. Because it maybe I'll have to see if I can like do it by property damage and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, that is it. Let me just read a few things, like some of the titles of these articles about the Hunga Tonga, Hunga Ha'apai eruption. NPR: Tonga's volcano sent tons of water into the stratosphere that could warm the Earth. That's interesting. Tonga eruption blasted unprecedented amount of water into stratosphere. The Tonga eruption may have spawned a tsunami as well as tall as the Statue of Liberty. This is just from 2 weeks ago from Science News. There was a tsunami. That's a fact. It affected Tonga, and it even reached all the way to California, although the damage was minimal in California. But there was a tsunami. A global tsunami. How did the Tonga tsunami jump from ocean to ocean? Tonga's eruption injected so much water into the Earth's atmosphere that it could weaken the ozone layer. The Tonga volcano eruption released more energy than the most powerful nuclear bomb. And that's something I already said. Let's see if there's anything else. Wave created by Tonga volcano eruption reached 90 meters, 9 times taller than the 2011 Japan tsunami. And that was that like really bad tsunami that was very cinematic. Let's go to earthquakes. That tsunami, let's go back to 2011. Oh, I don't have the earthquake on here yet. The heck? But it has it on here. It was a 9.0, or it was like larger than a 9.0. I don't know exactly what it was. But oh my gosh. Okay, so that's it. That's it. So if you haven't already, check out my interview with Mindi, okay, and then subscribe to her channel. And then if you want more of this content talking about natural disasters and stuff like that, I have another channel dedicated just to that. It is not an LDS channel. It's just for a general audience. Okay, but it's called Watch for the Signs. To subscribe to it, just go to my homepage, subscribe to me, subscribe to Mindi, or click on channels. You can do this on your phone or on a desktop. Subscribe to me, subscribe to Mindi, or go to the description box of Mindi's video and subscribe to her, or this video and subscribe to me. Okay. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to this channel, Christian Homestead. Leave your thoughts and opinions and information in the comments below. Feel free to email me if you have additional information that you'd like to share. just remember, I get like billions of emails and it's hard for me to get to all of them. So if I don't respond to yours right away, or maybe at this point even ever, do not take it personally. I just have to like try and find the best information. And I only have so much time, but I get so many messages between email and Facebook messages and Instagram messages and comments. I can't do it all. I'm so sorry, but I'll try and do my best. And then share this with anyone that would find it interesting or likes following these type of things, and I'll talk to you guys later.